Ah, good morning. Thank you for enjoying it with a six pack. I'm your host, Kendrick Stumbris. Thank you for listening to the Scotty Six Pack Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube, youtube.com/@Scotty6Pack. While you are here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell so you get notified as soon as we put episodes live. And I'll tease a little bit of, we might have a little bit of a surprise episode live later on today. You can follow me, Kendrick Stumbris, on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kendrick Stumbris, and follow the podcast at Scotty Sixpack for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. All right, if you are watching on YouTube, you'll see I've taken the mic off the stand. I'm sitting back. I'm laid back because this feels like a moment in time that we need to just lay back, relax, take a deep breath. It's 3 games. It's just 3 games. And of course, what I am talking about is the 3-game losing streak that the Wisconsin Badgers are on. And it's not great. It's definitely not what I would prefer. But there are worse things that could be happening. And I saw someone in a couple of places. I guess I saw multiple people in a couple of different places being like, are we on the bubble of the tournament now? Is this knocking Wisconsin out of the NCAA tournament? No. No. Stop. You do not get to be a top 10 ranked team in the country with a in February with a resume that can't withstand a couple of quad 2 losses. Everything is fine. This stinks, and there's definitely some reasons for concern, and we should talk about them. But the big picture questions about this team and what it can do in March have remained largely the same. Now, I think the thing that takes quite a bit of juice out of this season is that there really is no path to winning the Big Ten anymore. Wisconsin is actually now projected, according to KenPom, to finish 3rd in the Big Ten, 1 game behind Illinois and 4 games behind Purdue, which, keep in mind, Purdue is projected to win the league by 3 games. Again, I think they won by 3 or 4 last year. So that really, winning the Big Ten regular season title is really the only thing that Wisconsin no longer has in front of it. And everything else is still there. This is absolutely still a team that can reach the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. This is absolutely still a team that could go on a run and even maybe win the Big Ten tournament if that's something that is important to you. But the concerns that have made it so that this isn't a team that could win the Big Ten tournament, that could win the Big Ten regular season title anymore, are getting louder, I guess I would say, because we've seen multiple performances with these concerns now. And I want to start in the front court with Steven Crowell, because I thought, his front court mate, as you might put it, Tyler Wall, I thought had another really solid game. He went 6 of 7 from the field, put up 12 points, 4 rebounds. He didn't grab any offensive rebounds, but I thought Wisconsin performed pretty well going through Tyler Wall. He had 2 turnovers, but produced 3 steals. So I thought that was a solid performance by Tyler Wall, if not, the best performance that you could have. Definitely not as good as his performance against Purdue, but I thought he had a pretty good game overall. Wisconsin needs Steven Crowell to play better. Steven Crowell did not perform well against Purdue. He performed okay. He did not play well against Nebraska. The Badgers could not play through the paint at all in that game. And then this game comes and Steven Crowell has 3 points on 1 of 4 shooting and makes 1 of 2 free throw attempts. It was the Nebraska game that Steven Crowell and Tyler Wall combined to put up 7 shots from the floor. And Tyler Wall responded against Purdue by having one of the best games of his career, quite frankly, that I can remember. And now Steven Crowell has put together another performance where, and yeah, foul trouble was a big part here. And this goes kind of hand in hand with what my concerns were with his performance against Purdue, which was not necessarily that he had a bad offensive game, but that he had used 2 of his 5 fouls against non-Zach Edey Purdue players. And that hurt the Badgers because Steven Crowell ends up sitting for the last 2 minutes of that game at Purdue, or sorry, against Purdue inside the Kohl Center, because the Badgers are trying to foul to extend the game, and Steven Crowell can't be in the game. Otherwise, he would have risked fouling out. And then in this game, Steven Crowell picks up his 3rd foul fewer than 2.5 minutes into the second half. And then he picks up his 4th foul with 11:36 to go. It's not great, especially when a guy like Terrace Reed for Michigan has kind of been taking your lunch at times in this game. I thought that Kellen Voss on the episode that we did earlier in the week when we previewed this game, when we previewed Michigan, Wisconsin, Kellen Voss over at Mason Brew. You can follow him at Kellen__Voss on the website formerly known as Twitter. He had said that this roster construction for Michigan is weird because basically every player feels like a power forward. And I want my starting front court then for Wisconsin to be like full go if that's going to be the case. And well, Steven Crowell sat for a lot of time in this game. And it's not that Wisconsin really got its lunch taken by any one player in particular. I thought a Will Shetter performing as well as he did by Michigan. He was, oh man, he had a +9 plus minus in this game. Was quite surprising. I mean, he put up 11 points. You had a Doug McDaniel run early on, but before I lose the thread on Steven Crowell needs to be better than he has been in the past week. His performance at Nebraska was unacceptable. His defense against Purdue was suspect. And then he has this game against Michigan where Wisconsin probably needs him in more of this game. It's a 4-point game, and you lose your starting center for huge chunks of it. Steven Crowell only ends up playing 19 minutes in this game. That's, 10, 15 fewer than he typically does. I'll even go and look it up. The hard part is that I'm holding the mic for a bit here. But you need more out of Steven Crowell because Nolan Winter, he looks fine. Nolan Winter looks really solid. There are just these times where he gets exposed for the young player that he kind of is, and there are some of these times where it's the starting front court of the opposing team just making great plays. Some of it you had that on kind of the putback dunk by Zach Edey that Nolan Winter was defending Edey on that looked pretty poor at that point in time. There is also the Terrace Reed put together like this really athletic head fake dunk that went over Nolan Winter. I thought that was really impressive, but you just need more out of him. I can't find this minutes played. 19, 28, 37. He put 28 in that game against Purdue, and he had like foul trouble in that game. So that was 9 minutes more in this game at Michigan, 37 at Nebraska, 30 at Michigan State, 26. When is the last time? The last time Steven Crowell played 19 or fewer minutes in a game dates all the way back to the Arkansas State home opener, which Wisconsin won 105-76. The last time Steven Crowell played 19 minutes or fewer in a Big Ten game was February 22nd, 2023, in a 64-52 win over Iowa. Imagine some of that is some foul trouble situation last season. He had 3 fouls in that game, so it doesn't seem obnoxious, but that looks to be the only game in the last 2 seasons that Steven Crowell has played fewer minutes against a Big Ten opponent. And as I continue to scroll, it looks like that might be true over the course of the last 3 seasons. If you want to go since December 8th of 2022, Steven Crowell has only played one other game where he has played 19 or fewer minutes. You have to go all the way back then to December 8th of 2022 in a game against Indiana, where Steven Crowell played just 19 minutes, other than that 13-minute performance against Iowa last season. So that's not good. And I know that was kind of a long walk for a short drink of water. But another player that I thought was a little, and I don't even know how to characterize it, right? And it's the AJ Storr question. There is some you have to take the good with the bad with AJ Storr, because he has 20 points on 7 of 14 shooting. He performed pretty well, but sometimes he just takes these wild shots. And like he took, as Wisconsin is trying to come back late in this game, he took a shot, I think, with something with 10 seconds left in the shot clock. He takes a 3 with a hand right in his face with plenty of time left in the shot clock. And it's just the AJ Storr experience at this point is, I don't think that he feels an internal need to get his shots up. I think that he feels that the team might need him to get his shots up at times. And if he can learn to play better through the offense, that will be better for this team. But we've been talking about AJ Storr learning to play through the offense better throughout the whole season. I asked Gard in a post-game presser, and I mentioned this against I mentioned this in our pod with Kellen too. I asked Gard in a post-game presser back in December, I think it was, about AJ Storr's shot selection. And Greg Gard had a pretty long answer, but it was summed up in his first sentence, which was AJ Storr is learning what a good shot is. He might still need to take some classes. 1 of 4 on 3-point shooting. AJ Storr just taking some erratic threes of late. Of course, he was 5 of 5 against Nebraska, so that's fantastic. But I don't know what you're going to do with AJ Storr. I think you kind of have to take the good with the bad. I think that's going to be the AJ Storr experience. Because Wisconsin is still in all of these games. If he can be 5% better, Wisconsin is probably winning some of these games. A player that I thought had some real positives, Chucky Hepburn. Until the last play, until basically the final minute, but I'll get to that in a second. Chucky Hepburn, 6 of 11 shooting from the field. All right, 17 points, 2 of 3 on threes, 3 of 3 from the line. That's a solid Chucky Hepburn line. And like we mentioned in the recap of the not in the recap of the Nebraska game, but the preview of the Purdue game, which was that in the Nebraska game, Chucky Hepburn took, I believe it was 12 or 13 shots from the field. And that was the only time since November Chucky Hepburn had taken double-digit shot attempts on the season. Well, he got double-digit shot attempts in this game. And some of them were really high-quality shots. It wasn't that he was just shooting to shoot. Chucky Hepburn was getting to the rim. He got an and-one opportunity on a drive to the hoop. He is looking like a much more confident scorer in this game. He looked like he came into this game with a mission of trying to create more for himself, which is an element to this team that I think would make a really big difference. Um, because if Chucky Hepburn can drive to the hoop with authority and draw in extra defenders, he is a good enough playmaker to make the shots around him. And I think that will take this team a long way in some of these difficult games that are coming up in front of the Badgers. Um, Marcus Silver, I liked seeing it a little pick and roll action in the first half. That was nice. That was cute. I think he maybe deserves to play a little bit more. Um, Connor Sejan, another 0-point performance of 3 from the field. He's having a little bit of a rough time, I think. He was -11 on the night. Not super fantastic. I thought that he got cooked in one defensive possession in the first half in particular. He left Nimari Burnett for Michigan on the perimeter to go help Tyler Wall in a double team that I don't think he really needed to leave Nimari Burnett for, and that led to an Nimari Burnett wide open 3. Thought that was bad. It was worse because it was followed up by Connor Esijan going down on the other end of the floor and immediately turning the ball over, trying to get the ball to John Blackwell on the baseline. So that wasn't a super great sequence for Connor Esijan. Um, 3-point shooting again is killing this team. Chucky Hepburn made 2 of 3, which is good considering the kind of 3-point season he's having. But AJ Storr 1 of 4, Klesmit 2 of 5. I guess that's okay. But Connor Esijan of 2, John Blackwell of 2, Nolan Winter of 2, and I'm about ready to say that Nolan Winter needs to stop trying to shoot threes because they look gross every time they go up. I know that's something he has in his bag. I know that's something Nolan Winter has in his bag, but it just doesn't look good right now for whatever reason. And all of that combined so that Wisconsin was 0 of 7 from 3 until less than 5 minutes left in the second half. 0 of 7 on the second half, I should say. So that was not stupendous. But yeah, just a weird game. I don't think there's anyone to like really punk on for the loss. Like we talked about Stephen Crowell kind of in length, but someone is foul trouble, right? Like you gotta not foul. And despite Stephen Crowell not performing, this Wisconsin team just doubled up Michigan on points in the paint. They outscored them 40-20, and they were only up 4 paint points at the half. So in the second half, Wisconsin outscored Michigan by 16 paint points. Is that right? Yeah. In the second, oh Jesus, the second half, Wisconsin outscored Michigan 22-6 in the paint. That was excellent because I complained at our halftime space too that Wisconsin was kind of giving the paint away a little bit too much to Michigan. If you follow me on the website, formerly known as Twitter at Kendrick Stumbris, we go live on Spaces every halftime. Chat a bit about the game, what's going on, what's going wrong. So I guess Greg Gard took that to heart. He had said, I guess he mentioned it as he was running off the court at halftime to Andy Katz too, that Wisconsin was giving away the paint a little bit. But they took that to heart in the second half. They handled it, but just couldn't do enough in other points too. It's not that Michigan shot the heck out of them on the 3 as well. Wisconsin had 2 made threes in the second half. Michigan only had 3 made threes. But you know, if you're coming in down 4 already, you got to do more than just tread water, right? You came into the second half down 4 and you ended up losing by 4. Weird game. You got to try to flush it. I think you really just have to try to flush it. You obviously look at the tape and what you can do better, but for the most part, I think you got to flush the vibes from this game as much as you can. Because you came off a really tough home game against Purdue, one that you had a shot in. And there's a chance that this was a bit of a hangover game, but you can't continue to let these losses stack on top of each other. Wisconsin was in the unfortunate position of playing a game and losing a game that they should have won at Nebraska, and then playing a game that you are supposed to lose against Purdue. That's a tough spot to be in, but you have to stop the skid. It's not that losing at Rutgers this Saturday would be disastrous, but you would like to win the game. So I think that's going to do it for this monologue. Coming up this week on the show, we're going to talk some NBA trade deadline stuff, because the trade deadline is something like 5 hours away. I imagine that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to make a move, and maybe you'll see some sirens in your feed because of that. And so we'll get that up for you. And then later on, we have a guest lined up who I'm going to be recording 2 shows with today, actually, to preview this Badgers Scarlet Knights game in Rutgers as Wisconsin heads to Jersey Mike's Arena in Piscataway. We'll break down all things Rutgers because, man, this is a tough game that Wisconsin has to go into on Saturday against Rutgers. I think this Rutgers team is just fascinating. And I know we've talked just a little bit in short about how they have literally one of the worst offenses in the country and then one of the absolute best defenses in the country, and that being wacky. And you as a Wisconsin fan might say, oh, I know a team with a great defense, but not a good offense. No, this is a whole other level of weirdness. So we'll talk about that this week on the show. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for listening to the Scotty Six Pack podcast, the only podcast on the internet talking all things Wisconsin sports to you 6 times a week. I've been your host, Kendrick Stumbris. You can follow me on the website, formerly known as Twitter, and follow the podcast at Kendrick Stumbris and the podcast at Scotty Six Pack for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. While you are here watching on your podcast platform of choice or on YouTube, youtube.com/@Scotty6Pack, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified as soon as we put a potential emergency episode as the Milwaukee Bucks make a move at the NBA trade deadline. I think another interesting nugget today is that the Boston Celtics are expected to stay put before the trade deadline, kind of waiting to see what the Milwaukee Bucks do. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be some knock-on effects from that. Thank you for listening on Wisconsin.